We will need to
And
ensure
we
that
are
Canada
Friday.
can
And
succeed
on
in a
Fridays, what we do is
drastically
kind of check out
different world.
the current events of things out
The
there
old
all
relationship
around
we had
us,
with the United
from a
States,
Christian
based on
perspective.
deepening
And how
integration
do
of our
we
economies and tight
address
security
these
and
things
military
that are
cooperation,
taking place? And they
is
are
over.
concerning, aren't they? Yeah, causes us to have perhaps doubt, uncertainty on the days ahead. And, well, certain things obviously have come up during the week that you and I want to have a conversation about and see what we can figure out. So let me put up here the comment bubble so I can see any comments coming in. Stefan Maya is my name. AddedSouls.com is the website, and I labor alongside the East Coast Church of Christ over here on the East Coast of Canada. Check out the .com or the .ca, East Coast Church of Christ .ca. So what has been going on, if you will, in the socio-political affairs of our current Western nations? Things are certainly shifting. There is a change in the culture. There is a drift, if you will, and we Christians certainly must remain intact with the priority of the gospel and the love of Christ, focused on the heavenly path, yet not void of our responsibility and influence on this earth. God has called us to be good stewards of these physical vessels in this physical plateau, and to be wise, to discern the difference between right and wrong. What is the truth? What are lies? Whether it be in the realm of religion or in the realm of politics, or any other realm, if you will. So we are wise to pay attention to those things. We have over here in Canada our parliamentarian leadership from all parties in aggression, in hostility towards our American friends. I will be sharing videos with you where we see the evidence of the rhetoric that is being displayed for Canadians up here, up north, against our dear American friends. The new installment for Prime Minister Mark Carney has yesterday plainly said, we are no longer friends with America. We are siding with France, the UK, and various other principalities and powers. And we're going against America. They are telling us we don't need America and that we are becoming enemies with America. We have the leadership in Ontario, Doug Ford, tell us that we Canadians are going to inflict pain on America. And we're also going to show some videos of the President Trump and why I think the Canadian leadership is so hostile towards him. And we shall also find ourselves watching a video, and these are all clip videos, short videos, but they are in their context, and you can certainly find them out for yourself, of Senator Kennedy, and speaking a bit about the tariffs and the things taking place along those lines. So it's good to have you tuning in, friends. It's a beautiful day. It's Friday. We've been blessed with another day of life. And though there is much turmoil out there in this fallen world, you and I can make sense of these things and encourage each other. Ultimately, you and I have our faith in Christ. We need not fear Pharaoh's chariots, Caesar's oppression. You and I, we follow one king, the King, His Majesty, Christ, the ruler. And we are legal citizens of His kingdom. And so we need not fear any earthly power. Kingdoms of men, they come, they go. We need not fear them. We fear God, the Creator, the great I Am, the Ancient of Days. With the word, He has set forth all good things in motion. He is upright and decent. He is faithful and wise. You and I follow a divine power. And that's why I think, well, I don't think, I know, we know, that is why corrupt world leaders have great hate for those who follow Christ. And they knew from the very beginning we need to extinguish anyone who fears God more than man. That way, slavery can be made in the unrighteous description. Bondage, hard labor, famine, war, death. We become oppressed by a tyrant who has made himself his own God. That's what happens when we withdraw ourselves from fearing the great I am. And that's why we find ourselves in certain seasons of godlessness that we find ourselves. Achoo. Uh-oh. I sneezed. Is that still illegal? I'm not sure. It may just be. It may just be illegal still. Put me in jail for sneezing. Friends, please consider subscribing, liking, following, sharing, interacting with the content here. Maybe others out there want to make sense of this. I had to make sense of this. And to make sense of this, I kind of came up with a module, a strategic branch board where I can see what's happening, why it's happening, and I can make sense of it. And I believe you as well. If you've been following me for a while, you may have heard this structure before. I want to go through the structure fairly quickly, and then we'll put up the videos that show our Prime Minister saying that we are now enemies with America. And another leader, Doug Ford in Ontario, saying that we're going to inflict pain on Americans. And then we'll show a video of the POTUS, the President of the United States, saying things that, of course, are the reason why our here, quote-unquote, leaders hate him so much. And we'll show also a bit of a clip for Senator Kennedy in regards to the tariffs. And yeah, we'll see what unfolds with that, and what's taking place. We'll have ourselves, of course, opinionated conversation, but at times, no doubt, objective absolutes, the reality of our existence and what is truly taking place. And so I encourage you to stick around, no doubt. Okay, so we're remembering the structure of the Western sphere, right? The Western world, if you will, and the practical understanding of it in its tangible path forward, and how it was its origins and how it became what we are today, whether it be America, the sovereignty of independence, or Canada. Sovereignty of life, no doubt, once upon a time, but we were under the structure of the European model, if you will, the Queen, so on and so forth. And so we've not truly been independent ever, but closer than many others because we're joined at the hip with a sovereign power and independence. So our identity that we have since, of course, lost, was founded by legal documents, which came, of course, or were motivated by a higher power. In other words, individuals read the Bible, and they had Christian principles within their minds, and they created documents upon the nation's structure, its order, its laws. And through that became an identity for its people, Canadians and Americans. Okay? That's kind of how, that's historically accurate. You can go and read of these men and the documents they wrote and why they wrote them. So we had an identity, and I wrote down the 5-point system to our identity and what it used to be and what it used to mean, whether in America or in Canada. Again, in Canada, in a more diminished quality on the spectrum of freedom, if you will, but yet still quite potent. I remember it still as a child, how free we were. And so the identity was known in the community very strongly upon who we were, which goes to show it's just a matter of a few decades and it's gone. It's gone. We didn't preserve it as we should have. But our identity was in 5 modules. I categorized it. Number 1, pro-Christianity. We were a nation that was friendly to Christian values and principles. It was known that most of its citizens upheld Christian values. And that's what we cherished, we held on to, We understood it's what gave us our strength and freedom. It's what gave us our laws, right? They came from a higher power. So if you were in any sector of public service, it was understood that you had to uphold Christian values. So pro-Christianity was numero uno in our Canadian identity. The same, of course, with our American friends. Point number 2 within our identity was to be pro-life. In other words, we preserved the sovereignty of human life. We understood it to have been created in the image of God, which of course gave us the nation we blessed for. It was in his honor. Hey, listen, this land will be for Christians, And so pro-life was naturally part of our identity. We would preserve, protect, secure human life from the moment of conception to our natural departure. And that was well understood, embraced, and preserved. So we were pro-Christianity, pro-life. And we were, point number 3 into our identity, pro-family. All of this stems again from point number 1, which is why I categorized it in priority. Point number 1, pro-Christianity. From there on out, the source, from there on out, all the other points make sense. Pro-family. Male, female, husband, wife, children when afforded the blessing, if you will, when applicable. And that was something we cherished, we preserved, we embraced, we wanted to keep safe and sovereign. We move on to the next point, which makes sense. Again, if you're taking notes to this system, it makes sense because it's what we used to live traditionally, understood among the community. Pro self-defense. The divinely sourced liberty to defend one's castle, if you will, one's household, one's wife and children. Because again, we are pro-family. We are pro-life. Why? We are pro-Christianity. The devil knew he needed to remove our identity from point numero uno in order to demolish all the other points. Once you remove Christ, once you remove God, a higher power, from our source of authority, then man becomes his own God, and man in his greed, his pride, his control, his tyrannical ways oppresses the people and controls the people and slaughters the people who don't fall in line, if you will. So we'll talk a bit more about that, but pro-Christ, pro-life, pro-family, pro-self-defense, the ability to extinguish any threat to the property, the household, the wife, the children, the family therein. That was understood, that was preserved, that was something that was applicable, encouraged, promoted. We understood that. That was a sensible, decent, upright liberty we had. Why? Because we're pro-Christianity. We understand there's a higher power, and the principles of the Scriptures permit us this liberty to protect our household, our community, our state, our nation, right? So we were indeed pro-self-defense. And point number 5 to our identity is pro-country. We understood the value of our land, to preserve it, to protect it, borders, law, order, justice. We understood these things, the discernment of right and wrong, having honorable judges and honorable courts of law, so as to preserve the well-being of our identity. We understood this once as Canadians. Now this is foreign language. Foreign language. This has since become the enemy. This is now the enemy in the minds of the people who have been corrupted and contaminated by lawlessness. So now, living in Canada, we have reversed the identity. And we are, of course, in opposition. We are in opposition to what we once held dear, and it treated us well. It gave us the land of milk and honey, opportunity for prosperity. It gave us many, many, many blessings. But we turned our backs against that. We stopped thanking God. We became hostile against God. We even declared He don't exist for us anymore. So now we are anti-Christ, anti-human life, anti-family, anti-self-defense, and anti-country. We hate Christ, life, family, self-defense, and country. And that is truly tragic and sad, but it is indeed a consequence to those of us who held the identity we used to know and have, and we let that go. We didn't preserve it. We didn't keep it for our ancestral lineage. We squandered it. We cast our pearls before swine. We gave what was precious and good and upright and decent, not perfect, but upright and decent, and we gave it to the hands of evil workers, evil, murderous, lying people, corrupt and toxic people. We not only did this politically, but sadly we did so religiously as well, which has landed us where we are now here in Canada. So now that we are no longer pro-Christ, life, family, self-defense, and country, we are now anti-Christ, life, family, self-defense, and country. These have penetrated, infiltrated, contaminated the 5 branches of power that involve our citizenry here in Canada, and had also done the same in America. Though there is a shift now in America, there has been given hope. God to be praised, no doubt. So the 5 branches of power that have been contaminated by this corruption are, and I had to write all of this. This was for my own mind. I'm just sharing this with you. Maybe you have a different model or system, but this is what made sense to me, seeing all the chaos, the riot, the murder, the corruption, and everything just snowballing around us, in our culture changing, shifting, going away. I've wept. We've lost our Canadian culture. That's long gone. That's done. What you see now today is political theatrics, all these propagandists, these narrative shifters. They speak these things, but it's all for continuous greed or all those things. But anyways, the Canada I knew and grew up in is long gone. It's done. We've seen it destroyed. You can still find, if you will, whispers of its pocket in various rural locations. No doubt, you'll still find like a whisper of that kind of way. And I'm on the East Coast. You'll still probably find more of a Canadian patriotism, stronger out in the West. Alberta and stuff like that. But anyway, so now we are in the anti-realm, right? Hostile towards Christ and family and life and all that kind of stuff. And it's infiltrated the 5 branches of power, which is government, corporation, academia, entertainment, movies, music, sports, gaming, and media, news, and social. In other words, every aspect of our human life here in Canada has since been infiltrated by godless, corrupted tyrants who masquerade themselves, of course, as virtuous angels, as individuals who are here for Team Canada, elbows up, which is, of course, lunacy. It's foolishness. It's an act. It's not true at all. They are hypocrites of the highest order, and they lie to people. And sadly, most Canadians continue to fully accept or fully receive and believe what TV tells them. And TV is a purchased arm of corrupt global powers, again, in government, corporation, academia, entertainment, and media. Now, this is not foil hat conspiracy. This is objective, absolute reality. It's fact. It's the truth. Now, that's what's strange to the liberal mind. The liberal mind does not believe in any absolutes. They don't believe that there is such a thing as 1 + 1 makes 2. They do believe 1 + 1 makes 2 for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean 2 for me. In other words, we all have our own truth. Everything's subjective, which is why they lie as they speak. And they are corrupt, baby-murdering perverts. I don't say that with any bitterness. I am a bit angry and frustrated that we've accepted such lunacy and lawlessness, no doubt. I am angry about this. innocent life is being slaughtered and extinguished at the hands of these globalist puppets. Puppets meaning they are controlled by higher powers in their own system, not God, but their own system and realm. And they are driven by bitterness and greed and control and godlessness. And so they've infiltrated these systems of our existence. And all are now, of course, purchased propaganda. So TV keeps telling us, hate America, hate Americans, it's all Trump's fault, Trump's the devil. Trump and Elon are these fraudulent, criminal Nazis. They are these alt-right extremists. They are terrorists. They are phobics of every sort. That's the continuous, perpetual information we are receiving here in Canada all the time, every direction. You go out, it's what the neighbors are saying. You go to the community, you go to the city, everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying it. Where are they getting this from? Why so much hate against America and President Trump? Because the TV is telling us we have to. And what is on TV telling us these things? Well, all our political parties and leaders, quote-unquote leaders, all our corporations, our academic institutions, our entertainment industry, our media, every branch of our experience here in Canada is telling us it's all Trump's fault. We have to go to war against America, and we're not going alone. We're going to destroy America because we are a globalist power now. We have the UK, France, and all the other nations. We're getting together, and we're just going to destroy America. They're our enemies. This is the rhetoric. I go out in the city and people literally tell us we have to murder Trump. We have to murder the Americans. They're the enemy, these nut jobs. And they go on with the rhetoric. And it's so sad because they're so lost. They have no idea how they're buried and they can't think for themselves. They're not thinking for themselves. It's insanity of the highest order. It's one of the most difficult and challenging seasons I've ever had to live to in this country that I cherish, that I love. To speak to these people and they say these things, it's like, and you can't convince them otherwise. They've become unreasonable. They're not willing to sit down and speak to you. They're fully convinced in their hate. So this is the propaganda. This is what we are hearing. Now, there are millions of Canadians who are awake to these things. They can discern political truth and lie, and they absolutely know that what's happening is wrong. It's not right. But sadly, the majority is just so fully enamored in these lies that you can't reason with them. Their hate. Trump derangement syndrome is a true and real thing. It's not just a made-up. I think it may have begun as maybe a made-up thing or something along those lines, but it has since become, of course, a psychological truth. The derangement syndrome is so livid in their minds. They foam at the mouth. They can't reason with you. They can't talk to you. They can't have a sensible, civil, mature conversation. It's all Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. We have to kill Trump. It's all Trump's fault. So we have to kill Trump. And it's just become so devastating, so difficult to deal with that I typically don't. I'll say things like, well, I think TV's been lying to us. I don't think Trump's the devil TV's made him out to be. Now I'll try to find common ground. I'll be like, yeah, he's maybe a slick-talking, egotistical New Yorker. Yeah, he's a sinful man. Yeah, he's a man of the world. Okay. But what is he standing for on policy? What is he saying truly? Are you listening to what are you saying? So you try to make inroads with that, but, it's difficult. So all systems of power in Canada are now fully corrupted. And it's all from these globalist powers, these UN powers, WHO, EU, and whatnot. And they are governed by murderous passion. They just hate humanity, and they want to extinguish it, and they have been. Sadly, and that's what's been taking place. So you have these godless globalist powers who believe human beings are the problem, needing to be extinguished. Right? That's how they live, and they're always caught in hypocrisy. A recent blatant example of that fact is Elon and his electric vehicles, right? Now, I'm not an EV kind of guy. I think some of his cars look pretty cool, but it's not my thing, electric vehicles. But for years, we were being told that it was an inevitable conclusion that all Canadians were going to have to drive Teslas, right? Have to have EVs. Why? Because we're saving the trees. We're saving the environment. So it was going to be mandated. In other words, they were making gas-powered vehicles, fossil fuel projects, everything extinct. Like, we're not going to do that anymore because, climate change hysteria and whatnot. So we were all going to have to drive EVs. Then all of a sudden, we're physically assaulting individuals who have EVs, Teslas, more precisely, anything that belongs to Elon. And we hate Elon now because he's a Nazi, he's a fraud, he's a corrupt individual, he's a crook. TV keeps telling us these things, So now again, you can't go outside if you have a Tesla. You might get physically assaulted. You will definitely have your vehicle destroyed in one way or another, or, I can't go outside with any kind of American wear or hat or clothing or anything like that. To go outside and promote friendship with America is a death sentence for us. It won't be too long when they tell us we can't even travel there. They are actually promoting this as we speak. They're saying, we don't want you to travel there anymore. We don't want you to go to America anymore. So these things are taking place in real time as I speak this hour. And I'm going to put up some videos, of course, to show you the rhetoric that's taking place from our powers here, our quote-unquote leaders. And our leaders, by the way, have been installed. They've just been put in there. There's not been a nationwide vote for them or anything like that, though even if there were, I question the integrity of our electoral service. But this is what's happening. So what you see here in the godless regime that we currently live in, the loss of our Canadian culture and identity has now taken a different identity, the godless identity, which is, of course, again, anti-Christ, anti-life, family, self-defense, and country. It's it's against it, it's hostile against it. We've become enemies in our own nation, as you can see. So what that has produced, of course, is abortion and doctor-assisted suicide, toxic medical injections and prescriptions that are extinguishing human life in rampant numbers. The distribution of hardcore narcotics have been legalized, which is causing a flooding of overdoses all over the place. The flooding of foreign barbaric invasions have been permitted in. It's just a flooding. We're not talking about legal immigration. We have a congregation quite diverse and beautiful and flourishing as a spiritual house that is diverse with all sorts of immigration. Beautiful people, wonderful Christian people, my family, my friends. But they legally came here, you see, and they came here to assimilate Canadian culture and to become Canadian. Sadly, I feel it's bad for them because they've come in a time where the culture has diminished so much it's a whisper away from being extinguished, if you will. And they, who worked hard to be here and are still working hard to have legal status as a Canadian citizen, to assimilate Canadian culture, they are seeing this foreign barbaric invasion of individuals coming in and are fraudulently being given refugee status, and they aren't. They're just fraudulently, and it's to destroy everything. It's to destroy, and they've been proving that. They've been destroying everything around us. So that's been taking place in result to the now godless regime that is in power. You have, of course, the taxation theft issue that is taking place all around us. The taxation theft issue is real and rampant. We are being robbed in real time, taxed on our taxes, approximately more than half than our paycheck, if you will. And it's going to corrupt, foreign, and perverted policies. And that's a result of, again, the loss of our identity, the loss of freedom. We've lost our freedom here. There is an illusion of a certain kind of branch of freedom still permitted, but in essence, in its reality, we've lost our freedom of speech, our freedom of labor, our freedom of finances and nutrition and politics. We've lost our freedom in all these departments, truly. It's become illegal now to be in opposition and to speak out. They will destroy you. They will destroy you. You will lose your career. You will lose your business. You will, some of them even put in jail as political prisoners to this end. It's a fallen nation, no doubt. The loss of freedom. So that has taken place. The removal of self-defense. The removal of self-defense. In our last session, I mentioned how over here, just not too far in my community here, there was a break-in from 3 individuals with masks and firearms. They broke down the door, and the owner of the house shot one of them dead, and the 2 others they ran away. And the law enforcement came, and they took the homeowner and put him in jail. And over here now, because of the corrupt system, you are indeed guilty until proven innocent. And even at that case, they will keep you guilty if it is in accordance to the politically correct, corrupt narrative. So you have a homeowner who was protecting his home, his wife, his girlfriend, his partner, whatever the case may be, and individuals break into the door in the middle of the night with firearms. Now, these individuals, in the principle of the Christ, of course, in regards to the scriptures, these individuals who came in the middle of the night with masks on and firearms, they, of their own free will, withdrew themselves from their right to life. They did that upon the moment they chose to go upon another man's property and cause harm to him and his partner, his household. So they did that. They breached the contract of human connection, and they withdrew themselves to their right to life upon the moment they sought to remove another individual's right to life in that instance, that context. And so in accordance to the law of Christ, of course, the individual who was in the household had every right and liberty to extinguish the life of those who had since withdrew themselves from that right. But because we are under a godless oppression now that no longer can discern the difference between right and wrong, it is the homeowner who got put in jail. Now, as this happened, you can fact check all this kind of stuff. You can go ahead and Google. As this was happening, that an innocent man in his household, and I say innocent in regards to, I mean, I don't know him personally, and who knows what was taking place there. It could just as very well be some kind of a drug thing taking place. I don't know, but the point is, individuals came to his house with masks and firearms to break down the door. They broke down the door, they entered into his household. The house owner had a firearm, shot one of them dead. The other 2 fled. The individual of the household owner was taken, apprehended, and placed into custody, placed into jail. As this is happening in other locations of our maritime provinces, you are having individuals take out a knife in public randomly and stabbing a child. Just random, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Just an individuals walking out in public as you are in the midday hustle and bustle of your affairs. You're with your child. You're taking a walk down the sidewalk there. An individual took out a knife and stabbed the child, seeking to murder the child. This happened, it's been recorded twice now by 2 individuals. Those 2 individuals have not yet seen jail. They're free on bail. They've become the victims because they have mental issues, it's supposedly so, or allegedly claimed. And they're victims now. It's not their fault. They stabbed children in broad daylight in front of everyone, seeking to murder these children. It's not their fault. They just have, mental issues. So this is a scenario of how we're living now currently in this country and what is taking place in this country. And it is a result of godlessness. So these things are happening. The removal of self-defense has taken place. And this is all by design. Yes, there is much delinquency, no doubt, but this is by design. Corrupt individuals know exactly what they are doing. So we now have foreign enemy threats at our Atlantic shores, and we are embracing them instead, of course, of remaining in friendship with our American friends and becoming a continent that would secure the well-being of our people. No, we're not. We don't want to do that because we're godless. We're godless, and in the spiritual language, it is simply known as lawlessness running rampant. Lawlessness, sin running rampant. In the political description, what you have is the ism realm, right? And the ism realm of political affairs could not infiltrate and take over as they currently have without the first ism, which is known as atheism. Atheism is the worldview that permitted all the other isms to infiltrate the country and take over. And the reason is atheism is a subjective, nonsensical worldview which permits anything and everything. Now, not all atheists are baby-murdering perverts, but the problem is their worldview doesn't make baby-murdering perverts wrong objectively. It's kind of like the LGBTQ community. Not all LGBTQ community individuals are pedophiles. Many of them are kind people as far as personality, but the issue is their worldview, their system, their community has no laws against it. The minute you deviate from one path, it opens up the permissibility for all perverted, devious branches. So again, not all atheists are baby-murdering perverts, and not all LGBTQ community individuals are pedophiles. But those systems, those subjective systems, those worldviews, they permit it. They permit lawlessness. They have no law against it. However, the law of Christ and Christianity has a law against it. It says that's objectively wrong. Not only must it be addressed here on earth, it has eternal consequences. And now again, you recognize the reason why the principles and powers of godlessness have to get rid of Christianity first and foremost. But back to the mind of the godless heathen and the lawlessness that is described in political terms, the ism realm. Once atheism had infiltrated our systems, remember, government, corporation, academia, entertainment, and media, then it was quite easy to take over, if you will. And to take over from the other isms was through liberalism. Liberalism is a mental disorder infused by a lawless way of thinking. Now, that's in the context and description of its category. But you and I'm a very liberal person. I'm a very liberal person. But my liberalities, if you will, is in departments in which it is permissible and decent and upright. I am very liberal with my giving. I find a great blessing and joy in my heart, a fulfillment and contentment when I give. I want to be hospitable, and I want to practice charity and benevolence. I want to be kind to people. I'm very liberal with that. We are very liberal with the liberties we have in Christ. As an independent person and also as a collective group, as His church. We enjoy and take great cheer in holidays. It's permissible for us through Christ, so we enjoy those things. Some would call us liberals for that. Well, yeah, sure, call us liberals. We are. But I assure you, there is no liberalism in the realms of what is upright and objectively righteous. What we are speaking about in liberalism here politically is the lunacy of unrighteousness. And through liberalism, so again, the first ism, atheism takes over. Now the rest of the isms can come in through a political channel. So atheism to liberalism, liberalism to progressivism, from progressivism to socialism, socialism to fascism, fascism to Marxism, Marxism to communism, and the oppression and tyranny, both the physical and spiritual, we currently experience. Now, of course, individuals who may come from completely collapsed third world locations would come to this nation and say, wow, we are free. Look at the land of milk and honey. And certainly from that spectrum and measurement, you will see a difference. But for those of us who were born and raised in Canada, we have seen the drastic diminishing pattern. And many who are awake, who have immigrated from third world locations that are in complete chaos, they see the pattern in Canada and say, oh, you guys are headed where we are, where we were back, where we fled from a location you all are seemingly seeking to embrace and to make reality here. Don't do that, So you have many wonderful legal immigrants who are speaking out, of course, against the lunacy and corruption of the isms that we are currently experiencing. So we're going to put up some videos here, some small videos. Let me know if you can hear the videos, okay? The first one we're going to put up here is from Mark Carney. Now, Mark Carney has been installed as our prime minister. He has been installed in there through corruption. No doubt it wasn't a nationwide vote or anything like that. And he's doing things that are illegal all the time, no doubt. But so here is Mark Carney, and he's our now new prime minister. And this is what he said yesterday. He said this yesterday, and we have to recognize just how dangerous what he has said is. Now, they've been more and more, they've been aggressively amplifying war against America. And war not Canada against America, but Canada and all the United Nations and powers in the UK and in France and so on and so forth against America, to take over America. And here's what he had to say yesterday. Let me see if we can have it play here.
We will need to ensure that Canada can succeed in a drastically different world. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
Now, could you hear that? I don't do this quite often. It's been a long time, so I don't know if you were capable of hearing that segment that was taken from him. If so, please let me know in the comment section that, yeah, we heard it. Okay, excellent. Now, that's concerning, isn't it? Here I am as a Canadian citizen. Here we are as the East Coast Church of Christ in Canada. And we're listening to our leaders here in this country. And they are saying we are separating ourselves in our friendship from America. And they have become our enemies. Now, that, of course, is a very foolish thing to say. And there are millions of Canadians, of course, who are against that wholeheartedly. But not enough Canadians. The majority is fully enamored and deceived into believing the rhetoric, the propaganda. So Mark Carney, installed Prime Minister of Canada, has just said, we are withdrawing our friendship from America, our military, our economic and everything, and we're going to align ourselves with European powers against America. This is dangerous talk. This is foolishness at the highest order. But that's what Canadians believe. And it's sad. So that's the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, there is an election coming up, April 28th in Canada. It's a federal election. It's a nationwide election. What is sad is our quote-unquote PCs, Progressive Conservative Party, leadership Pierre Poilievre, they're all saying the same thing. They're all globalist. They're all compromised and corrupted. So it doesn't really matter who will be the face behind the pulpit of the political sphere. It is the agenda of the globalist power to go against America. So that was Mark Carney. Let me know if you hear now Doug Ford over in Ontario.
But I can assure you one thing. We're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And that
Okay, so I'm showing you two of the leading powers in Canada. One of them is saying we're pretty much no longer friends with America, and we're bracing ourselves to go against America. They are our enemies now. And as you just so clearly heard from Doug Ford, now this Doug Ford is under the banner of PC. He is a conservative, quote unquote, okay, from the Conservative Party, quote unquote. And you heard it from his own mouth. We're going to inflict as much pain as possible on the American people. And this is the narrative. This is what they're doing. This is what they're saying. And it is a tragedy. It's a devastation. It's a lunacy. It's a lunacy of the highest order. So you can understand how you may be starting to formulate the problem here for Canadians like myself and my family. Do you start to see the problem that's going to happen? I'm an enemy in my own nation. I'm a traitor in my own nation. What do they do with traitors? People who look. If America is our enemy and we're going to war against America, Canada and all the European nations to invade, to go to war with Canada. And I'm against that because I'm friends with America. I love America. I've been in America for years. I've been there. I've studied there. I've gotten to know the people, the culture. I love America. I love Canada, what it used to be. Well, you can see the problem here. You can see the problem when invaded as we are with a communist regime. The communist regime is going to look at us and be like, they are the enemy now. That might cause for emergency measures, no doubt. We will see as the days move forward what will happen. Now, why is it that our political powers and all their parties are so against America? More certainly, they're against America because of Trump. Let's put this into its proper perspective. It's not that they hate American people per se. They do hate everyone who voted for Trump, no doubt, because they hate Trump. It is Trump derangement syndrome running rampant in the minds of individuals who cannot discern the difference between male and female, who extinguish human life with every signature of their pen in policy. Okay? So they hate Trump so much. They're so deranged by their hate that they are willing to embrace communist policies to go to war against America, which is, of course, a sovereign, independent, and free nation, now once again ignited into those documents because of the Trump administration. And it's bigger than Trump, of course. Americans who voted for Trump, most of which know that quite clearly. It's not about Trump per se. It's about the policies Trump represents, which are the founding fathers' documents, which stem from a higher power, you know. But over here, we are being bred and ready for war against our American friends. And they are, of course, entertaining the idea. These powers are saying there might be drafts for our children, so on and so forth. And the reason is quite simple. It's good against evil. It's good against evil. It's what is normal against what is lunacy. It's sanity against insanity. And why would they say these things, and why do they hate Trump so much? Well, let me now put on a video of Trump. And let's pay attention to what Trump has to say here. And you'll start to make sense of why a godless country that we are now here in Canada, a godless country, would hate Trump so much. Here's one of the reasons.
On day one, I made the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Yeah, male and female.
Is there anybody, seriously, is there anybody that disagrees with that in this room? I was thinking maybe somebody from the press might raise their hand. I don't think so.
It's a bit humorous there.
There aren't too many people.
True, no doubt. But
you know, it's amazing. It's got to be like a 98% issue, right? So what are they doing, Marjorie? What are they doing? They're fighting for a 2% issue. That's good. Let them keep doing it. No matter how many surgeries you have or chemicals you inject, if you're born with male DNA in every cell of your body, you can never become a woman. You're not going to be a woman.
It's just not going to happen. It's logic, science, biology.
And that's why last month I proudly signed a historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports, and it was very popular and very popular. We had a track meet, and it was so disparaging to great women athletes. I've known so many great women athletes. I gave Annika Sorenstam the Medal of Freedom here not so long ago, and these are unbelievable athletes. But it's so ridiculous. They had a track meet, and you heard me talking about long-distance track meet. The man won by 5 hours and 14 minutes and 12 seconds. And I said, this is not good.
No.
And you want to see worse? Take a look at the weightlifting records. Take a look at the boxing. Take a look at this.
Crazy.
The whole thing is ridiculous. And frankly, it's demeaning to women. And you are superior to men, in my opinion.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons why our political powers hate Trump. They hate that. They hate sanity and normalcy and what is decent and upright and what is scientifically factual. They hate that, and they hate it with great passion. So that's why it is quite common to hear individuals over here say things like
that. But I can assure you one thing: we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And
that's why we keep getting this rhetoric, because they hate what is true and what is real. And so they don't want to let go of their power. So they are going to make America their enemy. And these bureaucratic, corrupted individuals, these bloated bureaucrats, they've stolen so much money from the Canadian people. They're going to hide. They're not going to find themselves in the slaughter. It's a devastating thing to go through as a Christian, to live throughout a season in time where we recognize what's happening around us and be like, ugh. And it's easy to fall and spiral downwards in anxiety and fear and lose faith, if you will, lose focus on faith. Now, we don't do that as Christians. We ought not do that as Christians. We are to stand strong and know that God is ultimately in control. He has called us to have influence, no doubt, but he is ultimately in control. I am not going to go to war against my American friends. It's just not going to happen. My children are not going to be drafted to fight against Americans, nor be delivered in Ukraine to be slaughtered there as well. It's just not going to happen. There is, of course, me, my family, and the congregation here. We have set boundaries and a line in the sand where if it becomes an emergency, in a drastic, immediate emergency, then we will flee if the necessity calls for it. We will not be slaughtered and die at the hands of these corrupted individuals who do not care at all about human life or their citizenry. The best case scenario, and the prayer being prayed fervently, is that Canada becomes an American territory. We still get to keep Canadian culture, though we've lost a great deal of it. We'll still get to keep the remnant of it. And just like you would find Texans in Texas, Floridians in Florida, you will find Canadians in Canada as one unique, strategically secure continent. Our taxes are dropped half, we regain freedom, and we go back to the system of our identity we once knew: pro-Christ, pro-life, pro-family, pro-self-defense, and pro-country. It's a win-win, but you cannot speak these things to unreasonable individuals who are fully enamored with Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I'm not saying I am a fan, if you will, of Trump's personality, though I find him quite entertaining and amusing at times, no doubt, and also a serious man in a position of great power on earth. His policies is what I listen to, and his policies are in accordance, in majority, if you will. His policies may not all of them, but most of them are friendly to Christian principles, to human life, to family, to self-defense, and to country, law and order and justice. And so it is understandable that his enemies, the enemies of those policies, more so accurately, are going to slander. They're going to demonize. They're going to create, edit, and manipulate information to have us fully complacent or submissive to a lie and become hateful against our American friends, and vice versa. That should not be the case for Christians. Sadly, though, I see many of my brethren fully enamored in a lie, loyal to political parties that perpetuate and continue to deliver lies and deceptive narratives to people. And that is sad. That is truly sad. That should not be taking place. Now, the war on the tariffs. I'm going to put up a short video from Senator Kennedy, which I believe spoke a very reasonable and balanced approach and suggestion to Canada and America regarding tariffs. But again, everything that is decent and upright and reasonable is not accepted. It's rejected, it's neglected, it's not embraced by lawlessness. And so, though it is the solution, what Trump has been saying in policy is the solution to our well-being, and what I will be putting up on the screen here, Senator Kennedy is saying is indeed the solution. It will not be accepted by the enemy. And though we love the enemy and we pray for the enemy, we cannot permit the enemy to take over. They have taken over. What do we do now? Well, it's a bit of a difficult situation, isn't it? So, and also, this needs to be said. Those that I've put on the video, you've heard the video from Mark Carney and Doug Ford, they express the same rhetoric as all our political leaders over here. There is only one political leader and one political party that is different. That is a true conservative policy, and that is the People's Party of Canada, the PPC. That's why they are so slandered and demonized. They are given every word in the book. You know how that works, right? Racist, extremist, Nazis, phobics, blah, 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 alt-right, blah, 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 blah. Well, of course, those are all lies. But the PPC, the People's Party of Canada, its current leader, Maxime Bernier, who was on some pretty major American podcasts these past weeks, he represents the only political party and policy that is truly conservative, which is, of course, the political party we vote for here and stand up for. But it is in a deep minority because it's not given any airtime. It's always demonized. You know how that works, right? And so it's always tucked under the rug, if you will, not permitted to have any light. And those who even dare to vote for them or to speak out, to speak in favor of PPC policies are immediately demonized. There was an individual, a candidate running for the political party for the PPC who lost his employment, got fired just because of his political opinions. So these things are happening. These things are happening. We ourselves in this congregation are blessed to have a candidate for the PPC and standing for political policies. Now, please understand this. We are utilizing these influences for the greater good of Christ and his kingdom. Our focus is heaven. Our focus is to have someone learn the gospel of Jesus Christ. Someone who truly knows the Christ of the Scriptures will in of himself or herself begin to discern right from wrong. And the teachings they receive in accordance to the Scriptures will help them to say, hey, wait a minute now. I can't, as a faithful Christian, vote for or promote or encourage or defend policies that are extinguishing human life or perverting our children In other words, in quite plain language, as I speak, faithful Christians don't vote for baby-murdering perverts. You can't meet God on that day as a baby, as an individual who has voted for, encouraged, promoted, supported baby-murdering perverts. So we understand the priority of things and the liberty we have to speak upon moral issues that corrupted politics have since hijacked and utilized for their own political gain and ambitions. So what you have is these individuals like Doug Ford and like Mark Carney that I've showed you. I've shown you the evidence of what they are saying over here to us. I assure you every news channel saying the same thing. The people in the community who listen to the TV are fully contaminated by that same rhetoric. They are saying elbows up, Team Canada. And they are it's filled with gaslight, no for sure, and they're filled with deception and manipulation and taking advantage of people. It's a lie. These same people, since 2015, have been telling us to burn the Canadian flag, that Canada is an oppressive patriarch, it's racist, it should be burnt to the ground and dispersed. Trudeau himself said we are going to get rid of the identity, and he did. These people are the same people who would praise, support, and encourage foreign barbaric infiltrators burning the Canadian flag and saying death to Canada. They promoted that. They've been telling us this every day since 2015. Hate Canada. Destroy Canada. Canada's useless. Canada's no good. It's a racist, phobic country. It was based on patriarch and it was based on Christianity, life, family, self-defense, and country, and we need to get rid of that. They did. Then all of a sudden, Trump's administration won the majority vote in America. And now all of a sudden, Canada proud. Team Canada. Elbows up, Canada. We're going to war against America. And you know why? I put a video up of what Trump was saying regarding male and female. That's why they hate him. And because he's against the globalist takeover, the New World Order, the communist regime and tyranny. He's against that, so they are naturally against him. Team Canada. And what is so frustrating and so devastating is that none of these Canadians can describe what Canada is. Team Canada, elbows up, Canada. We're fighting against America now. Be proud of Canada. It's on the radios now. It's on everything. It's in government. It's in corporations, academia, entertainment, and media. It's everywhere now. Team Canada, elbows up, Canada. We're going to war against America. None of them, not a single one of these self-righteous hypocrites can tell you what it means to be a Canadian. Not one of them. They don't know what it is. They have slogans. If you say, what does it mean to be Canadian? Strength and diversity. Well, that's not an identity. That's a slogan that was utilized, a very deceptive slogan, no doubt. But what does it mean to be Canadian? You know, Justin Trudeau, the leader of this country, since 2015 was asked that question. What does it mean to be Canadian? You know what his answer was? This is what the leader of Canada had to say in regards to the identity of the Canadian people. He said, well, we're not American. That was his answer. What is the Canadian identity? We're not American. That's interesting, isn't it? Sad. These individuals who have Trump derangement syndrome running rampant, they just hate Trump. They foam at the mouth. Many of them, and I spoke about this in our last Friday session, they recognize the chaos all around them. They can't afford to eat. They've lost their house. They've lost their business. Okay? For a period of time, we were not even permitted to leave the house. We couldn't even have people over to the house. We couldn't even go to funerals to say bye to loved ones. We couldn't. We couldn't go to marriage. We couldn't go to weddings of our loved ones. We couldn't even meet on Sunday morning to worship God together as his church. Now, we still did, and guess what happens? The law enforcement came and got us. But we still did it. They recognize all of these things. They recognize now the massive death toll with heart disease, heart problems, rapid cancer, sudden death. They recognize all the drug overdoses in the community. Our children walking to their public school are seeing dead bodies next to them walking to the public. Our children walking to public school are seeing dead overdosed bodies. Drugs are legal. See, the liberal mind will tell us if we legalize crime, crime goes down. All of this, they see it. And they're like, bad, that's bad. And then, sadly, they fall prey to the narrative. And it's all Trump's fault. And it's all the people who voted for Trump's fault. It isn't. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has everything to do with the corrupt leaders that are in power. That's the problem. And liberalism will tell you, see all these problems we've created? Vote for more liberalism and we'll fix the problem. It's lunacy. It's insanity. It truly is. It's quite frustrating to see it all around you as an individual who is awake. Not only are we awake spiritually, but we are awake politically. So we got a double whammy against us all around us. It's very difficult to navigate through that as a Christian and not lose composure. How? Focus on the Christ. Keep reading the scriptures. Be part of a faithful congregation, healthy and growing. Practice benevolence. Practice love and tenderness, forgiveness, compassion, hospitality, charity. Stay together. Live in fellowship with one another. Encourage each other. Speak about these concerns with one another. Burying it under the sand and saying we don't talk about that is a misguided application to our faith, and I assure you our children, if they are taught that misguided way, will leave the church the minute they get old enough. We have to address these things as Christians. We have to deal with them. Let me ask you this. What's the difference in a preacher behind the pulpit, let's say, who is proclaiming, exposing evil and defending the truth, and he says to his congregants, he says, my dear friends, my brethren, stay away from Jordan Street. Stay away from Jordan Street at this location, at this very time of night. You'll find prostitutes and drug dealers. You'll find all kinds of lawlessness and danger there. Christians, you should not go to Jordan Street at 2 a.m. in the morning near Cross Street and High Street, and don't go there. Don't promote that place. Don't encourage that place. Have nothing to do with that location. Now, the people who are there, pray for them. And if there is any way we can help them know about Jesus, we'll do that. But stay away from that location and time, and because it's filled with lawlessness and danger and crime. Now, would anybody have an objection to a preacher saying those things? And if there are names, maybe he would say the name. Stay away from John Smith over there and he'd give you the house location, because over there they sell drugs and they have prostitution there, or what, we're not allowed to say prostitution. That could get me in jail for hate speech. Now it's called sex workers. They have sex workers there. Don't go there. Like, would any sound, faithful Christian have an objection against the preacher for saying that? Would anyone stand up against that preacher and say, hey, preacher, you're a divisive individual. You're pushing people away. Don't you know that by saying those things, you're pushing people away? Now, some would, of course, say that. They wouldn't be faithful Christians, but would a faithful Christian? Well, of course not. A faithful Christian would be encouraged by that. Be like, yeah, we need to recognize where danger is found. Thank you for loving us and telling us danger is there. We should not support danger there. We shouldn't have anything to do with that location. There'd be no problems, would there? Okay, what if the same preacher were to say, friends, listen, you see all the chaos that is around us, all the destruction, the death, the riot, the slaughter, the fraud, the lunacy, the theft, the crime everywhere is running rampant against us. Do you see the problem we're in? Yes? Stop voting for liberals, for NDPs and Greens. Stop voting for these Democrats, for these parties. They are corrupt and evil. Stop voting for the problem. Someone might say, well, now you're talking politics and you're pushing people away. Am I talking politics? Are we? Really? If you vote for that political party, they're going to slaughter babies and pervert your children. Why would you vote for them? Maybe I'm immature. Maybe I still don't understand it. Maybe I need to learn something more. But I don't see a difference there. I don't see a problem there. We're speaking out against sin. And we're sharing with our brethren that we should all not promote sin, vote for sin. It's because I think at times they can't discern the difference between the character of the individual and the policies he or she represents. I think that's the problem. They can't discern it. Well, Trump's an adulterer, Trump's a fornicator, Trump's a liar, Trump's a this, Trump's a that. Trump may be all those things. I don't expect him to come preach a sermon for us here on Sunday morning. But the policies he represents, whether Trump walked this earth or not, the policies are better for society. They are more peaceful for society. In regards to the tariffs, I'm going to put up a video from Senator Kennedy. Because, you know, we Canadians are, of course, placing blame on Trump. It's all Trump's fault, you know. And so we're aggravating the war, the tariff war. And somehow our Canadian leaders are firmly convinced that we can win the tariff war against America. Now, I know that's a very foolish thing to think. It's a delusion. At its most kindest description, it's a delusion. But they are firmly convinced in their own mind, or they know they can't win, and they're, again, just corrupted to utilize the system and make themselves rich. So here's a clip from Senator Kennedy in regards to the tariffs.
Canada and the United States of America do a lot of business with each other.
Yes, they do.
In 2024, the United States sold to the people of Canada about $350 billion in goods. It's a lot of goods, $350 billion. Canada sold Canadian goods to the United States in the amount of $412 billion. So there's what we call a trade deficit of $63 billion. And then you drill a little deeper and you realize that the U.S. economy is 10 times bigger than the Canadian economy. And the population of the United States of America is 8 times bigger than the population of Canada. Canada has 41 million people. America has 340 million. So you step back for a second and you go, huh. Now, the United States is 8 times bigger, and our economy is 10 times larger than Canada's. But yet Canada is selling more of its goods into the United States than the United States is selling into Canada. Any fair-minded person would have to conclude, Mr. President, that it's because of tariffs. It's because the Canadian tariffs on American goods are higher than the American tariffs on Canadian goods. And that's what the dispute is all about. President Trump, who believes passionately in the virtue of tariffs, thinks that the tariffs ought to be equal, that there shouldn't be a trade deficit. Now, trade is very complicated, and I don't think that all trade deficits are bad. I'm also not saying that all trade deficits are good. Trade in the complex global economy today is very complex. But I see the president's point. I'm not suggesting that I agree with the president on everything about tariffs, but when you've got your neighboring country and good friend is 8 times smaller than you are, and in terms of population, it's 10 times smaller than you are, and your neighbor is selling $63 billion more in goods to you than you're selling to them, that seems kind of unfair. And the president, as we all know, has made that point very vociferously. In response, the Canadian government, the new Prime Minister Carney, he's pretty much bowed up. When President Trump said, well, the tariffs are uneven, so I'm going to raise American tariffs. President Carney has bowed up and said, well, President Trump, you don't believe in free trade. You're not a free trader. If you raise your tariffs, then I'm going to raise mine even more. And that's how you get into a trade war. And I don't want a trade war. And I don't think Prime Minister Carney wants a trade war. And I don't think President Trump wants a trade war. But I think Prime Minister Carney is wrong when he says that President Trump is not a free trader. President Trump is a free trader, but like most of us, he also believes in fair trading as well. So here's my respectful, gentle challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. Yeah. Prime Minister Carney, you have criticized President Trump, and I see your point of view. You said because he's raising tariffs on Canada, that President Trump doesn't believe in free trade. You have said that he believes in tariffs. And you have said Mr. Carney, you're going to change your tariffs. I hope Prime Minister Carney does change his tariffs. But I hope he does so in a way that we have a race to the top and not to the bottom. Rather than the Prime Minister of Canada raising tariffs on the United States of America after the United States of America raises tariffs on Canada, which will cause us friends to have a trade war, I would respectfully suggest to the Prime Minister of Carney of Canada that he should reduce tariffs to zero. He should reduce all Canadian tariffs on United States goods to zero. And then turn to President Trump and say, I'm asking you to remove all tariffs on Canada as well. Now, if Prime Minister Carney believes in free trade, and I take him at his word that he does, and if President Trump believes in free trade, but fair trade, and I take him at his word that he does, then let's both go to zero. How much freer can trade be? How much fairer can trade be? Let's avoid a trade war. Let's let those good Canadian companies compete with good American companies in selling goods into the United States. And let's let those good American companies compete with those good Canadian companies in terms of selling goods into Canada. And may the best, cheapest product win. That's my respectful challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. If you think President Trump's being unfair and is not a free trader, then reduce your tariffs to zero and ask President Trump to reduce our tariffs to zero on Canada. And let's go back to being friends again.
Now, that's reasonable. It's sensible. It's mature. It would be the right active agency, the conduit into peace, no doubt. And we should be sitting at the table saying, yeah. But are you aware that over here in Canada, we tariff each other even inter-provincially? Like one province can't even sell a product to another province without a tariff. Bloated bureaucracy. We are a failed corporation for sale, despite what they say. But this is the answer. This would make sense. It would begin inroads to friendship. Be like, hey, listen, drop your tariffs to zero. We drop ours to zero, or vice versa. We have our zero tariffs. We can make business. Well, here's, again, as we go to the conclusion of things, here's Carney's, our installed Prime Minister's reply.
We will need to ensure that Canada can succeed in a drastically different world. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over.
It's over. We're not going to find ways to peace. We're not going to find our way into a better place, if you will. No, we're going to go to war against America, and we're going to line ourselves up with the UK and France and various other powers, because it's globalist powers, corrupted globalist powers. So that's where we're at. That's what's taking place. It's sad. It shouldn't be. Now, I am uncertain of the policies to come, but here are some of the things that are being said by our politicians. Some of the things are Canadians can't travel to America anymore, can't go to America. Maybe they make that a law. Maybe the imaginary line between Canada and America becomes a thing where, you won't be able to cross from one side to the other. They may make us enemies. They may seek to do this, that, and the other. They are confiscating our firearms as we speak. They are heavily and forcefully doing that. That's never for a good reason. We've read the history books, you and I. We know why any corrupt globalist power like that, a tyranny of sorts, would want to confiscate the people's firearms. We know why they would do that. It's never for the safety of the people. Never, ever. So we recognize these things as sensible people, reasonable people, thinking minds. Who knows what the future may hold? But I know one thing, and you and I know one thing. God has seen all tomorrows. God has seen all tomorrows. He has seen the beginning and the end. You and I, we don't see tomorrow. We hope tomorrow's a better day. And we utilize the blessing of today's life to try to have a peaceful place to live in. But we don't see tomorrow. God does. So we must trust in the God that sees tomorrow. And the God that sees tomorrow is a good God. And he loves us dearly. And we will pray that it is his will to extinguish evil, to bring it to justice, and to permit peace to be flourished. But he is a God that loves us with the ability of free will. So if we choose evil, we shall receive the reward of an evil practice. And judgment comes in such ways. We are now in a disciplinary time. But if we are not learning to change our minds during the disciplinary time, judgment is soon to come. Now it is my opinion, and my opinion only, that God has seen enough war. He has seen enough of man slaughtering himself. And that perhaps he has blessed you and I to live in the age of his return, where the sky will open, the trumpets will sound, and judgment will be upon the wicked. And the faithful in Christ, peaceful and kind in heart, forgiven, shall be with him forever. I don't know if that'll happen in our age or not. I pray it does. I have faith it does. But who knows what will happen tomorrow? I am, and many millions of Canadians are indeed, quite thankful to God that President Trump and his administration was elected by the majority of American people with policies that are going to be more so helpful to peace. But sometimes, most times, you can't have peace without justice. You can't have peace without war, because the enemy, he don't care about us. He don't want to sit down and have a conversation. They don't even believe in absolute truth. They don't believe in truth. They just want to murder and lie and destroy and pervert. And sometimes we have to fight against that. In other words, unrighteous violence demands righteous violence. When an individual chooses to forfeit his or her right to life by purposely seeking to extinguish your innocence, we must defend ourselves. We must defend ourselves. Pride won't do it. A humble, submissive love towards God, confessing our sins, seeking to change. That's what does it. That's what does it. Well, my dear friends, this brings us to a conclusion, about an hour and a half, on our Friday theme, current events, socio-political affairs, through the Christian perspective and faith and lens. And I pray that though we are aware of what is happening and the uncertainty of our days ahead, that true and faithful Christians in America and in Canada will remain in friendship and fellowship and not permit evil to cause a divide between us. to not cause us to hate each other because godless people want us to hate each other. Our Canadian powers, as we speak, want us to hate America, want us to go to war against America, want us to be separated from America. They are liars and they are fools. I love my brethren in America, and I love the American independence and sovereignty. But I love Canada as well, and I love my land. It's been taken from us. That don't mean I don't love it. I still love my land. I've wept over this. I've wept over the loss of our culture, our land, our people. But I don't have the luxury to curl up in a little ball and be like, I can't do this anymore. I don't have that luxury. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's just I don't have the luxury to call up any excuses to not lead. I have a family of 7 to lead, and I have a beautiful, growing, loving congregation to minister to. I don't have the luxury to spiral downwards in fear-mongering, anxieties, and what's taking place. Evil men do evil things. They're not going to change. We keep looking forward to God. We keep praying. We keep telling people about the love of Christ and all those who would seek to study. So, though there is a lot of discouragement involved with politics today, you and I can find hope and courage in focusing on Jesus and his faithful people. Truly, it's how we get by each day. Today, do you have food? Do you have shelter? Do you have clothing? Yes, we do. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Stay focused and stay positive. You are appreciated. You are loved. Stefan Maya is my name. AddedSouls.com is my website. I labor alongside the East Coast Church of Christ over here on the East Coast of Canada. Check out the .com or the .ca, East Coast Church of Christ.ca. It's good to see you. As always, good to have all of our friends involved. Friends, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all that kind of stuff, right? Helps the material move forward. If you want more from me, you can follow me on my personal Facebook page, Stefan Ashmaye. I'm all over the place with Added Souls, Rumble, Substack will be uploaded. It'll be in the audio format for Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google, all over the place. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Rumble channel. What else now? Well, everywhere's right. We're all over the place. We try to do our best to influence our community in the positive way. Lord willing, we shall see each other next week. We go live from 9 a.m. Well, we go live from Tuesday to Friday at 9 a.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. So if you want to join us, we'd love to have you. If not, you can check out our archived videos. Good stuff? All right. Have a good weekend. Peace out.